Okay.
And no, the numbers have to be going, and now we're on.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but that's okay. We're on. It's rolling.
Okay.
Okay. Hello, my name is Ava Howard. I'm an upcoming senior at Brentwood High School in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm here with Robbie Rogers. He is the director of photography for Baylor Marketing at Baylor University. First, can you describe what you do? What is a normal day for you?
Well, there's no such thing as normal in our career here because we're recovering journalists who are now working in marketing. And a typical day for us is that we cover everything that the university has to offer. It's a very vibrant place. Baylor's fantastic. I welcome you to come visit anytime. Everybody's welcome. And we work towards the mission of the university. What we do is we have a story to tell about Baylor, that that it's research, it's faith, it's the community of people working with faculty, staff, and students to move forward in many directions. And it's a great place to come find yourself and to figure out what you want to do with your life. So how does that relate to photography? I go out and do all of that. I mean, we cover athletics, academics. We know all the deans from the president's office down to everybody in facilities. We make friends with those. We eat on campus. We visit on campus. On a daily basis, we also manage the Instagram account for Baylor University. At Baylor University, follow us. So that's a great way to show the campus to people that in a different way, too. So we do stills, we do time-lapse, we do video, we do social media. It's a nice mix of everything.
Now, I know you worked in the NFL. You were a photographer, and what was that like?
You know, it was great. First off, you eat like a king. You got to be careful not to eat the 5,000 calorie diet a day, because on the planes that'll kill you. But it was great. It helped me do this too. When you're inside, when you know people personally, when the coaches, the staff, the players, you all know each other, you learn your strengths and your weaknesses, and you can pick from that. So it was a great experience. I worked with Tony Dungy for 3 years. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but great guy, fantastic. We did chapel together. We would eat together. We traveled together. I remember his mom and dad real well. And it was just a great opportunity to get to know people like that, to make friends with Warren Sapp and some of the great players that we had there during the time. It was a wonderful experience. So, and I love football too.
Oh, me too. What are your current projects?
Currently, right across the street from where we're at we're building a brand new football stadium, and that's going to take about a couple years to build. So every day we have 2 cameras taking pictures of that we're going to put together as a time lapse as one project. And then our projects, you can get bogged down with it because it might seem the same. Because let's see, next fall we're going to take in new students. They're all going to be smart. And we're going to go through classes, and then we ship them out, and they all graduate. I mean, it's almost like when you go to church. It's Christmas, and then it's Easter. So what happens in between? Well, it's a different story every year, too. And that's what we try to do. We try to find stories. We try to find, interesting angles like that. A couple years ago, I was over in Africa with different groups from business school. I was in Uganda with business school, in Kenya with pre-meds, athletes, and social work. And then I actually went to Malawi and swam in Lake Malawi with some biologists and grad students doing research there. Yes, Baylor goes out into the world to do that, but there's so much going on here too. Church Under the Bridge, which is physically a few hundred yards away from us, watching Baylor students wash the feet of homeless people, stepping out when students go out and help others. I remember when I was in college, I was pretty self-centered, and you might be when you get there too.
A little bit.
But to reach out to other people, to become socially aware, to be engaged, to volunteer, to give to others. I mean, that's what this is all about.
What are your future projects?
Oh man, I'd like to be a hair model, but if that doesn't work out, we were just talking about it at lunch too. Video is a new thing for us. We enjoy doing that. Is that something I want to do forever? No. I'm always curious on new ways to tell stories because that's my heart. With a journalism degree and my background, I still love to tell stories. So there's going to be something new that'll come along that hopefully I can learn. Working at a university, one of the best things about working at a university, if you set your mind to it, is that it's a community of learners. I mean, we learn more than the students do when you're realistic about it. Because the students come in and help teach us either how to teach, how to lead, how to follow, how to live. So, I mean, we learn a lot from the students. So we're grateful for the students of that aspect. In summer, we don't know what to do. But,
Who influenced you into this career?
The primary influence of mine, I mean, photography-wise, is W. Eugene Smith. And Life magazine was very popular, and used to see the stories there, Spanish Village, Minamata. He was sort of socially active, and would find a cause and sort of work towards that. He was embedded way before embedded was even a term. I loved that sort of style. It was as if no one knew he was there. And Cartier-Bresson, Decisive Moment, also fantastic. As much as I love to have my personality that I've gained, I love it also when no one realizes that I'm there. Because I just want to capture things. The only reason I'm there with a camera is because everybody can't be there. Yeah. And I'm there to share it with people. So that's why I love what I do.
That's great. How has your field changed over the past decade?
Well, before we had dark rooms and film and all this stuff. You have no idea what I'm talking about. Could you imagine taking a picture and waiting a week to see what it looked like? And you could only take 36 in a roll and things like that. Yeah, and just the way the communication is, the same way in just basic information, too. When you heard somebody died, it's like 2 weeks later. It was after the funeral, and just rather than this instantaneous, go on Facebook and everybody's posting. Everyone wants to be that first line of, this is where I got my information. Everybody wants to be known for providing information. And photography is a lot like that, too. I mean, we're out there capturing it. We've always wanted to release it as quick as we could, being a journalist. And I just remember early days of film transmission, and I remember transmitting on prints, tubes. We used electronic tubes. This was before transistors and things when we did this, and we would just send them like a fax, which you don't even know about now too, over phone lines. And it would separate out the picture one line at a time. And it would just go down this tube, and you'd scan it like that. And for today, I mean, my phone has a lot more power and a lot better resolution than a camera I bought in 2000 for $15,000. I mean, the progress in the last 5-10 years is just amazing. So I'm totally excited about if somebody sits down and does a hologram interview with you in a few years, cool. What you would say has changed, because it's changed so much for us. It's just going to be exponential for what the change is for you. I mean, I can't imagine it, but it is going to be cool.
How do you think photography impacted, the world or, a country?
Single pictures have so much impact and power. How many years ago in China, Tiananmen Square, standing in front of the tanks? Even Kent State, we're thinking of things in our era. Still to this generation, there are single images that you recall and you remember. Video is fleeting. Video is one of those things like a dream, and when you wake up, you recall the stills of it. It's something still, there's something about that tactile, you can hold on to it, you can study it, you can analyze it, or not. I mean, video is sort of all-encompassing. It's maybe too many senses going on at once. So, still, photography has changed many lives. I mean, it's changed mine and what I do, but just getting those moments. And you're always, when you work at a newspaper or you work somewhere, you're always impressed. You go into somebody's house, you're invited, and you see on a refrigerator, like they clip something and they put it there. And you never know. You don't get feedback like that. But just for people to tell you that. I mean, this friend of mine from high school, she lost her daughter to cancer. I did the last portrait of the family, and they all had the Livestrong bracelets on. They were hugging her, and Stephanie was there in the center. And it's just one of those, you forget about that sometimes. You forget that you can impact something too. And we're all psyched up to change the world, where in my reality, just changing one person's attitude of the world might be that big boulder. Changing the world is a great thing to do.
So would you say it's equal to articles?
Words and pictures, wow. Well, since my wife is a writer, this is going to be pretty sketchy from here on in. Somebody wiser than I said that a picture's worth 1,000 words, so I'm going to go with that quote there. And actually, when it was a few years ago in a digital breakdown, the amount of content needed to store a word and to store a picture, it actually equals to like 1 million now. So because photos need more storage. But impact of a word is fantastic. You should not be an illiterate photographer. I mean,
Yeah.
you need to know how to theme this all together and how to be eloquent in both this. I can write. I hate to admit in public that I like to write. I enjoy to write. It's a great release.
Yeah.
Whenever I travel, I blog, and I mean, it's fantastic to do. The power is just so intimate, and it's the same thing. You know what I miss with the photography. I try to fortify it with the words too, so they work together with that. But words versus pictures, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because I mean, single words have changed generations, and photography isn't as old. I'll give you that. How about that? The written word. The written word has an advantage just due to longevity.
That's true. Where is it headed? Where is your field headed, you think?
So I started out in journalism. In photojournalism was my major, and daily newspaper journalism, I cannot give you the most optimistic outcome for. Last week, the entire photo staff, newspaper in Chicago, was laid off. 2 days later, the entire photo staff at Boston University was laid off, totally cleared out. You know, is this doom and gloom? No. I mean, it depends on who you're talking to about this, too. I mean, yes, the newspaper business has changed radically since I was in it. There's many components to it that I don't follow anymore. I think the tenets have changed. Some of the journalistic standards have changed, even though they seem timeless. You know, just the fact that you have to be the loudest now doesn't follow with what I learned foundationally. So, as far as photojournalism and journalism, I would still encourage anyone to follow your heart, even though that sounds totally childish.
No.
And do what you love, even if that means you're really good at making French fries at parties. If you love doing that, I mean, a great book, it's totally old, but I would encourage you to read, is Fish. These are guys in Seattle that throw fish all day, and they love it. And it examines why they love that. How can you love something that seems so unlovable? How are unlovable people loved? You know, so if you start examining that, and really enjoy where you are, when you are, then you don't worry so much about the future. I mean, I'm not in charge of the future, luckily. That's not in my pay scale. If I were going to tell somebody, you know, somebody came to my office, sat down and said, I want to be a photojournalist, I mean, the very first thing I tell them every time is, why do you hate your parents? I mean, do you have a bridge you're going to live under? You know, it's very tough. I mean, all of the students that we take in here, all the photography students, we make sure that none of them are journalism majors. They're lawyers, they're pre-med, they're political science. We can teach a chemist how to take pictures. It's hard to teach people skills. And plus, we have found by taking non-journalists, they're much more eager to learn.
Really?
Yeah, because typically, if you've taken a couple years of yearbook and you come to here, well, I already have done this. I'm like, great. You know, where's the learning? You know,
I
so,
see.
you know, if we're willing to be lifelong learners, everybody should be. Newspapers will not be the same in 10 years as they are today. They're not the same as they were 10 years ago. Any field isn't the same exactly. You know, I don't know, farming has changed drastically. I mean, truck driving, nursing, lawyers, everybody. So why would we expect that this be exactly the same? I mean, I think our expectations are skewed on it a little different. I think what we need to be is realistic. Change is inevitable, but if you embrace change, then you go along with it. Matthew and I, when we work together and we do projects, and we're working on speaking at a symposium next week in Chicago, we actually picked an earlier work and then a middle work and a later work to see our growth and our progression. We started out really simply, and now we're into full movement and everything else too. And it's nice to grow like that. I see no problem in that. So that, if you have that sort of attitude, that will help you in any market. Even if you're selling real estate in a bad market, you know, at least you can make the best of it.
I see what you're saying.
And who's Matthew? Tell her who's Matthew.
Oh, Matthew
yeah,
Menard.
he's Matthew.
So Matthew Menard is an office next door, and the walls are thin, so we could say hi, Matthew, and he'd probably say hi back. But he's the assistant director of photography here. So we have 2 full-time staff, and then full-time office manager who she really does all the work. We're just the pretty ones. And then we take on about 2 to 4 students every semester who they do the real work.
That's great. Lastly, do you think this is a good career to get into?
What do you think?
I'm guessing you're going to say yes. Right?
Really? Why?
Yes. Well, over what you said about, how much you love this, and if you love something, you should just go after it. So
Journalism is so
But, I
tough,
mean,
though.
probably
I'd
really
almost,
tough,
I'd
yeah,
almost say
yeah.
no today. I would almost say
Really?
that.
Really?
It's one of those. I've been in situations. You see people at their worst. You see people at their best. You only remember the ones at their worst. I remember so clearly. I was in the middle of Kansas. Flood wiped out everything. This farmer was losing his land and everything. Called me in to his dining room there, which is a tiny little table. We sat down and he started pouring over all his financial records with me and showing me how he was doing this. And I thought, this is, his kids probably have never seen these numbers, this paperwork. I know he doesn't have an accountant, he can't afford it. He's showing me this only because he's trying to struggle with this. And how do you help in that situation? When you're sort of helpless, then when you're armed with just a camera or just a pen and paper and you're supposed to help people, how do you do that? It is not for the faint of heart. You really, you have to be strong. You have to be a total egotistical idiot at times, but you have to be humble enough to actually listen to when people give you an answer rather than just trying to draw out what you want to hear from them.
Well, thank you for letting me talk with you.
Well, thank you very much for listening. It's been a pleasure. Is there anything else you should ask me?
No, I mean, I loved what you said, the last comment you said. Yeah, I know photography is really hard. I bet it's just as hard as, screenplay writing, which is what I want to do.
Yeah.
But, it's for the tough skins.
Well, even more so because everyone is a photographer. You have one of these. Not everyone writes a screenplay.
That's true.
Everyone is a photographer. Every single living human being today on the face of the earth, just about. So that's the challenge. How do you differentiate yourself from that? I mean, how are you different? How do you set yourself apart? And it goes back to the components of storytelling, which is going to be screen. I would love to be a screenwriter. I'm not even teasing you.
Really? Yeah.
Oh, I'd love
I love
to.
it. I love it.
But Chris Hansen, you should talk with him. There's many people to talk
I
with.
already did. I think I